I want to take a moment to begin this video and talk about this struggle we're having with this channel. It's really kind of the way that gun channels are interacting with Google and YouTube is affecting us, and it's affecting our ability to be able to produce content. So I want to take a moment and just ask you support us on Patreon, where a lot of the content we can't put here is going, and it supports this ministry. Six or 7 months ago, we put out a video talking about military, specifically U.S. Army small arms in the form of Beretta 92s and ARs showing up at crime scenes, mostly in New York and on the East Coast. Now, what's taking place here, and again, we did a video, I put the link here, but something has changed since then. That's why we're updating this. But ultimately what took place was, when a crime was committed and the police would confiscate that firearm, they would then do a trace, and or a reverse trace. They would then trace that firearm from where it originated. And according to the trace, it was in the armory in Fort Bragg. So many guns coming up missing from the U.S. Army. The problem was they weren't reported missing. They were reported just sitting safe in the military armory, but yet here they are showing up on the streets of America committing crimes. So what is taking place, and why is this taking place? Well, the reason we're making this video is these guns are still continuing to show up, and there's little to no accountability as far as, well, why are these guns unaccounted for? So we're still, because ultimately what took place when that happened was there was an effort to account for these firearms, but yet nothing has changed. These guns are still showing up on the streets of America. Now, of course, when the military went to their new sidearm with the SIG P320, the Beretta 92 was phased out. You know, I don't know how many Beretta 92s there are in the military. My guess is hundreds of thousands of them. Well, these are all finding their ways to the streets of America. This is a big problem that continues to go unaccounted for, and that's really the purpose of this video. When U.S. Army guns are showing up on the streets of America, not like they're for sale at a gun store, no, they're showing up in crimes, gun crimes, violent crimes committed with firearms, and then whenever those guns are confiscated, well, what do you know? These belong to the U.S. military. All right, well, let's do a trace. Well, it turns out they're actually safely secured in the armories. The reason, I guess I don't need to really say why this is a problem. We understand this is a problem. The bigger piece is, how does this continue to happen? How is this continuing to be unaccounted for? How do we get this problem resolved? U.S. Army military weapons showing up in the hands of criminals all throughout the streets of America, mostly on the East Coast. Now, again, these are phased out weapons. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm just going to recommend, it's very important as Americans that we hold our representatives accountable. You know, the Army is not holding themselves accountable. Let's put it that way. Somebody has to hold them accountable. So I'm going to recommend that you call your representatives and put an end to these military weapons showing up in crimes. You know, because what's ultimately taking, and here's the biggest problem of it, is because the whole country, well, half of the country is telling us that we don't need military style weapons, but the criminals, they have military style weapons. And guess what? I don't even have a military style weapon. I don't have a selector switch on my rifles. I can't put it in full auto or 3-round burst. But yet the criminals, they are able to do that. They have full-size sidearms and selector switches on their rifles because somehow they're getting them from the military. The U.S. military has provided them to them. Meanwhile, they're trying to convince us that we don't need them. You know, any thoughts or insights you might have on this, definitely put it in the comments below. Definitely call your representative. Put an end to the U.S. Army weapons showing up in crimes. or start filtering some of those military weapons to us so we can defend ourselves against these criminals, which is definitely not going to happen. So the alternative is just put an end to it. Reach out to your representative. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with Patreon. That link is below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.